10 Strange Facts About the Avengers Phase 1. The first phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe gave us unforgettable heroes, but also some really strange behind-the-scenes stories. From Robert Downey Jr. improvising, "I am Iron Man," to Scarlett Johansson constantly dyeing her hair, and even a last-minute shawarma scene filmed after the premiere, Phase 1 was full of surprises. Today, we're counting 10 of the strangest facts from the early days of the Avengers. Thor's hammer was surprisingly light. On screen, Mjolnir looks like one of the heaviest and most powerful weapons in the Marvel Universe, but behind the scenes, things were very different. The hammers used on set during Thor and the Avengers were actually made of lightweight materials, often just painted foam. Some versions were so light that when actors picked them up, it looked almost too easy, forcing them to exaggerate their movements so it didn't ruin the illusion. Of course, there were also heavier props for close-ups and dramatic shots, but most of the time, Thor's legendary hammer was basically a movie trick. It just goes to show. In Hollywood, even the mightiest weapon can be as light as a feather. Tony Stark improvised many lines. When Iron Man hit theaters in 2008, it didn't just launch the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it also showcased Robert Downey Jr.'s incredible improvisation skills. Downey was known for playing around with dialogue on set, adding quick wit and unexpected humor that wasn't in the script. In fact, many of Tony Stark's funniest and most memorable lines came straight from his improvisation. The most famous example: the ending of Iron Man. Instead of following the script, where Stark was supposed to keep his identity secret, Downey decided to simply say, "I am Iron Man." That one unscripted line shocked the crew, thrilled audiences, and completely reshaped how Marvel would approach its storytelling, making their heroes more bold, unpredictable, and human. It wasn't just a line, it was the beginning of the MCU as we know it. Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury look came from a comic based on him. Long before Samuel L. Jackson ever appeared in the MCU, Marvel Comics had already reimagined Nick Fury in his image. In the early 2000s Ultimate Marvel line, artists redesigned Fury to look exactly like Jackson: bald head, goatee, eye patch, and all. It wasn't just a coincidence. The comics even joked about casting Jackson if a movie ever happened. Years later, that prediction came true. Jackson debuted as Fury in Iron Man's post-credits scene in 2008, making the comic book Easter egg into MCU history. It's one of the rare times where the comics predicted the casting perfectly. The puny god scene was partially improvised. One of the funniest and most memorable moments in the Avengers 2012 is when the Hulk smashes Loki into the ground like a rag doll before growling the iconic line, "Puny God." What many fans don't know is that Tom Hiddleston wasn't fully prepared for how rough the stunt would be. He expected a few tugs from the wires, but the team yanked him down with surprising force, so that dazed, shocked expression on Loki's face. That was half acting, and half genuine disbelief. Mark Ruffalo later admitted that even the puny god line was added late in the process, making the scene even more hilarious. It's the perfect mix of improv, stunt work, and comedy. And it became one of Hulk's most legendary MCU moments. The Avengers shawarma scene was filmed last minute. One of the funniest moments in the Avengers 2012 happens after the credits, when Earth's mightiest heroes sit quietly eating shawarma after saving New York. But here's the twist. That scene wasn't even planned during filming. It was actually shot after the movie had its very first press screening. Joss Whedon brought the cast back together just to capture that quirky, low-key moment. If you look closely, you can even see Chris Evans covering his face with his hand. That's because he was wearing a prosthetic beard for another role and couldn't shave it off. This last-minute addition turned into one of the MCU's most iconic post-credit gags, proving sometimes the best scenes are the ones least expected. Captain America's shield reflected the crew. In Captain America, the First Avenger 2011, Steve Rogers' iconic vibranium shield looked amazing on screen, but it created a surprising problem during filming. Because the shield was so polished and reflective, it often caught the image of the film crew, lights, and even cameras in the middle of action scenes. This meant the editing team had to spend countless hours digitally removing those reflections frame by frame. It's one of those behind-the-scenes headaches that fans never notice. But without that careful editing, Cap's shield would have revealed more than just his heroics. Mark Ruffalo was almost not the Hulk. When fans saw the Avengers in 2012, many were surprised to find Mark Ruffalo stepping into the role of Bruce Banner. After all, Edward Norton had played the Hulk just a few years earlier in The Incredible Hulk 2008. What most people don't know is that Ruffalo was actually considered for the role back then, but the studio chose Norton instead. By the time the Avengers came around, Marvel decided Ruffalo was the better fit, and he's been the face of Bruce Banner ever since. It's funny to think how different the Marvel Cinematic Universe might have looked if Ruffalo had been chosen from the very beginning. Scarlett Johansson dyed her hair every week. When Scarlett Johansson first appeared as Black Widow in Iron Man 2 2010, her fiery red hair became an instant part of the character's identity. But what many fans don't know is that Johansson had to recolor her hair almost every single week during filming. The bright red tone would fade quickly under studio lights and action scenes, so constant touch-ups were necessary to keep it looking sharp and consistent on screen. It was a small but demanding detail, showing just how much effort went into maintaining Black Widow's iconic look right from the start. Jeremy Renner trained with Olympic archers. When Jeremy Renner signed on to play Hawkeye in the Avengers 2012, he wanted to bring authenticity to the role of Marvel's master archer. To prepare, Renner trained with Olympic-level archers, studying their posture, grip, and shooting techniques to make his form look convincing on screen. But here's the funny part. While his stance and movements were based on real archery, most of Hawkeye's shots in the films are physically impossible. The trick arrows, lightning-fast reloads, and gravity-defying moves were pure Hollywood magic. Still, Renner's dedication gave Hawkeye a believable edge, making him stand out among gods, geniuses, and super soldiers. Chris Evans hid his costume. When Captain America: The First Avenger wrapped filming in 2011, Chris Evans wasn't ready to say goodbye to the iconic suit. Instead of handing it back, he secretly kept the Captain America costume for himself. But he didn't just hold on to it as a souvenir. Evans admitted that he sometimes wore the uniform to visit children in hospitals. For those kids, seeing Captain America walk into the room wasn't just special, it was unforgettable. This small but heartfelt gesture showed that Evans wasn't just playing a hero. On screen, he truly embodied one in real life. It's a reminder that sometimes the impact of a superhero goes far beyond the movies. And that's it for today's list of strange Avengers facts. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more Marvel content, and drop a comment sharing your favorite Phase 1 moment.